Back on a Tuesday night open line, everybody. We're glad you are with us, and Pat Nolan is here as well, and so is Carrie Russell from Vanderbilt. We appreciate you guys being here, and we're going to talk a little bit before we wrap up about Pat Inside Politics this week.
Yeah, we have an interview this week with Beth Harwell, the Speaker of the House, and you noticed that the Vice President was aware that Speaker Harwell had appointed a legislative committee. He travels all the way to Washington. And you noticed that he saw that as a positive sign for Insure Politics, the Insure Tennessee. You know, originally, when she made that appointment, there was a lot of criticism, particularly from Insure Tennessee supporters who thought this was really a bad idea and a dead-end thing. But you're beginning to see some people think maybe it'll be a little different. And what she told me this week is that she plans to take whatever the committee comes back with and immediately start working with the federal officials and bring it to the legislature next year when she comes in. And I think her idea is that this is, I asked her, are you going to use Insure Tennessee as sort of the framework for this, or did you tell that committee just take out a plain blank sheet of paper and start all over again? And she wants to use Insure Tennessee. Now, exactly how she's going to do it, because it's not clear from these hearings exactly what they're going to do. But she does point out the fact that this is going to have legislative input. The committee is made up of all the chairs of a lot of the critical House committees. So I think she's trying to make a case that this could be something that could actually be working. Of course, it also gives her something to talk about on the campaign trail, and she does have a Democrat running against her in her district for re-election, and Insure Tennessee is the issue she's going to be using against her. All right, let's go to the phones, and we welcome our good friend. Keep hitting the wrong button. I'll get used to it. Reverend Enoch Fuzz. Reverend, how are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. Hey, and hello, Pat Nolan.
Hello. How you doing?
I have a million questions for you, but I'm going to stick to your topic.
Okay.
All right, listen. On the president's nominee for the Supreme Court, I'm guessing Supreme Court starts to meet like May and June, and it's now like 8 people on there. Why? Wouldn't this be like an emergency to get someone on the Supreme Court to deliberate on the important issues that come before that body? And I'm thinking that, you know, people are saying Donald Trump is getting all of these people who are uneducated. My thoughts on that is that people are really upset with this kind of shenanigan right here, that this is the reason that it's pushing people to vote for Donald Trump, because they're upset with these very type of shenanigans. We're not going to put somebody on the Supreme Court. That's really important to me, to have somebody there to make a decision on important matters. I'd like to hear what you think, and who are the people really that are voting for Donald Trump besides, I'm not going to say. Thank you.
All right. Either of you can jump in on that.
Well, it is important. It is important to have a fully staffed court.
Yeah.
And it, what I think that the American people are broadcasting loud and clear with their support for Bernie Sanders and their support for Donald Trump is that they are sick of this infighting and this obstructionist behavior. We pay their salary. This is our tax dollars at work, and they're refusing to do their job. And I think the American people should be upset about it.
I should point out, in the meetings ahead of the interview with the Vice President, Valerie Jarrett, who's a key White House advisor to President Obama, and White House counsel Neil Eggleston, I think is his name, both came into the room to speak with us. And then we had an opportunity to interview them on camera. We didn't bring a camera, so we did Facebook Live, by the way, with Valerie Jarrett, which was pretty cool. I took some quotes here. They really believe, because of what the public opinion is right now about this, some quotes is, ultimately they will relent, the senators, let the people decide, let them see his intelligence, his decency, his humanity. They call it an unprecedented slippery slope. It's unsustainable, and on and on and on. But basically they're saying, you know, their big, if you want to put a hashtag to it, is do your job, and that is you must hold hearing. And bringing the anchors in keeps that story alive, keeps it moving
in the local
down the
markets,
road. In the
for
local
sure.
markets out there.
where people are paying attention to what the local media is reporting. Of course, unfortunately, well, maybe not unfortunately, in a presidential year, in an election year, Washington tends to kind of fade in the background.
Boy, does it.
They're not the center of everything because they're usually not debating anything of substance because they're afraid if something passes, they're either going to hurt them or help them, and they're afraid it's more going to hurt them. So Washington doesn't become that important, so therefore it kind of fades away. So it's hard to keep people focused on that particular issue. There are plenty of things people are mad about, and we see that every time we have one of these primaries every Tuesday. It seems like during this series, and that's not going to go away even after the election. Line 3 is Richard. Hey, Richard. Good evening,
everyone. It's Merrick Garland. The Supreme Court needs a justice, not a politician or another prosecutor. Garland is an authoritarian that supports the drug war against Americans. You don't go to Google, you'll find a Reject Garland petition everywhere.
Okay.
Also, we need to reject the Republican Party for not doing their job, along with Garland.
Oh, so you think that they should hold a hearing, up or down vote?
Of course, that's their job. The Republican Party has become a haven of sold-out special interest puppets, greedy corporate puppets for these corporations. The Citizens United has been a disaster. It's allowed this unlimited funds in there to just completely corrupt and destroy our government.
Do you think that's one of the reasons these so-called outsiders on both sides, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, are striking such a nerve with voters?
Of course. The middle class is vanishing, and we're slipping into a special designation as a fourth world country at this rate. The authoritarians, they only offer intensive micromanagement by all areas of the government, subjugation, and they demand immediate blind obedience and extortion level overtaxation. Where's this going to give up? It's like Americans are flocking. Businesses have left the country. It's a sad day for anyone that even dreamed of being the old America that's vanished.
Richard, thank you for calling and sharing your comments. Appreciate it. Passionate.
It will be interesting to see because, as I said, the anger in the country is still out there among the electorate. This election is not going to necessarily diffuse or solve that anger. So where does it go, and what does whoever the new president is do with it come January 2017? Because it will be in that person's lap, along with whoever's in the new Congress to deal with it, and the Supreme Court for that matter. Although the Supreme Court usually doesn't pay that, they're not supposed to pay attention to elections. They do, but they're not supposed to.
Let me ask you about your students.
Sure.
That you're teaching. How engaged are they, and what is the feeling you get from them? We hear about the young kids today, they're buried in their electronics. They don't know things about the world around them. Vanderbilt, I would imagine, has some students who are pretty involved and in touch.
They are. This generation of students cares. I mean, I think that the catchphrase at Vanderbilt for most students is that they see themselves as being socially more liberal, but financially more or fiscally more conservative. That seems to be a common thread amongst, when you ask them about their political positions. But at the end of the semester, we had lots of students organizing for the candidates across the spectrum. And I think they are excited and a lot of them have gravitated towards Bernie Sanders' populism, but a lot of our female students have been excited about Hillary Clinton as well. And then of our more conservative students, a lot of them, there was a strong Marco Rubio camp on campus, and I think it's Christmas for political scientists.
Sure is. We'll take our final break, wrap it up right after this.